Hello everybody and welcome back. I have a number of Scottish reports for you tonight. From a very small area with a lot of accounts. So between Auchendrane and Arravane we have 4 accounts, and I'm going to save the best till last. But to start with a small one, we have the Loch Awe Voices. And this happened on the 28th of December in 2014. And a photographer visiting the loch was setting up his equipment when, to his surprise, on a cold winter's day, way out at the loch edge, heard what he could only describe as voices and giggling, even though there were no other people around. He looked everywhere for the people playing a joke on him, out in the wilds of Scotland, in freezing conditions, but he never did find them. The voices moved from area to area with ease, and he fled after something started skimming stones across the ice in front of him. And not too far away, a little further along the valley, we have the Loch Awe feeling of being watched. I was camping on the southern end of Loch Awe a few years ago. It wasn't by choice, and we'd been forced there by the wind, the rain and the bad weather. And campsites were scarce, and to be honest, we were exhausted to the point where I was worried about my girlfriend. She was cold and she was slurring her speech. I wanted to get her warmed up as quickly as I could. After a lot of looking around, we settled for a small clearing in amongst some trees, a few metres from the shore. There's enough room for a fire and a tarp plus a tent. I put up the tent, stuffed her in the sleeping bag, and went off to get firewood to make some hot food and tea. I had a strange feeling of vulnerability while I was collecting wood and cutting it. I kept stopping what I was doing and looking around me. I had a feeling that somebody was about to walk up to me. I wasn't scared, but I just felt that something was about to happen. I was kind of expecting a gamekeeper or someone to come up on me, or come and talk to me, or, another person was out hiking. Anyway, it was cold and wet, and the going was slow. Eventually, my girlfriend came out to find me, which was odd, and she sat with me while I was splitting the wood. And then she admitted she'd felt uneasy on her own back at the tent, so I didn't want to tell her about feeling watched, as I didn't want to spook her anymore. We went back together and resumed our camp routine, and we set up for an early night. I got the fire going, fed us both, and made hot drinks, and we settled down to try and get some sleep. That night I had to get up in the middle of the night to take care of some business. I walked across the clearing and went behind a holly bush, and there I got the most intense feeling of danger I have ever felt. It felt like I'd walked somewhere I should not have gone. That night it was very dark, and I accept that the dark has an effect on our brains. That's something that interests me. It's a hobby of mine. But I felt an immediate and urgent need to get away from that spot right away, and that's what I did. So I cut short the business I was taking care of, and pretty quickly walked back to the tent, where I stopped and sat outside for a while to see what I could see and hear. To be honest, I didn't want to go back to sleep. Nothing much happened that night, and it was a good little camp and free, so for the next few nights we stayed in the same spot. And it was okay within the camp, but I got the same feeling whenever I went near that holly bush. It was not until we both left that site that I realised the effect the loch, the area, had on both of our moods. Within minutes of leaving, we both felt uplifted and happy, and realised that there had been something wrong back there. The story does not really translate that well into text, I know, but I'm hoping that it might trigger other people's memories, and we might get some more incidents of scary or unexplained things that have happened up there. And other things have happened up there. Not too far away, within a short walk really, we have Loch Entive. And Loch Entive joins via small stream to Loch Awe. And in 2000, a lady contacted me and said, "Hi folks, I'm getting in touch as something really strange happened and I'm unsure where to go with this. I'm hoping someone else will be able to give me an explanation on the events that day. I think I may have had an encounter with something I couldn't see. We all looked, but we never saw anything that could be making the noises anywhere. But we all heard tree knocks and thuds coming from within the thickest part of the wood." It happened around August, September 2000, and I was with both of my parents up at Loch Entive. We were walking along the side of the loch, about 6 miles up a forestry track. We were collecting gravel for my dad's cactus collection that day, so this area was ideal for finding it. Anyway, we were there for about an hour or so, and every so often we could hear wood knocks and loud thuds coming from the woods beside us. It did feel at times like we were being watched. I don't think there was another person up there. We never saw another person. Just the three of us. It was very strange. And the last account I have for you comes between them. Just above the loch are feelings of being watched, and just below the Loch Entive feelings of being watched, we have 2 wild men hunting on the road to Dalavich. I'd like to report an incident that happened to me in Argyll, Scotland, one of my favourite places to be. It was down one of the single track roads that runs between Tainult and Dalavich, on the road that runs along the side of Loch Are. There are miles and miles of forestry track that you can walk along. It's a good place to be if you want solitude. You can walk for hours without bumping into anyone. There are tracks and trails crisscrossing the area. It's a short walk from Loch Entive and has multiple places to go off track and just enjoy the time out in nature. Although I do question walking alone after seeing what I can only describe as a hunting party of 2 out there on the road that night, something I will never forget. It happened on a cool night at around 1 a.m. in March 2016. I was driving back from a friend's house after an evening of chat and I was sober and in good spirits. I was alone in the car, and at this point I was driving through the older parts of the forest. I noticed a movement quickly as I was out the corner of my eye. Suddenly, from my left-hand side, startled by a deer running across the road, running as fast as it could in flight. I didn't have time to think what was chasing it. I looked back to see, and it was being followed by a large man-like creature. He was really tall and very hairy, and he was running, moving at a fast pace. He took one long stride to cross the road, and without thinking I stopped, eyes fixed on the running man. You see, the thing was, as soon as I hit the brakes and turned to look where he had come out of the trees, when off to my left I see what looked like another one. The figure was smaller, younger, not so big and muscled, but a wild man type thing all the same. He wasn't looking at me, but looking towards where the bigger one ran into the trees. I couldn't believe what I'd just seen. To this day, I still question it. I did get a good look at both of them. The moon was out, it was a clear and crisp night, and it's not like I could have mistaken them for something. They looked like 2 wild men hunting. The first one that crossed over the road after the deer was at a height of, I guess, about 8 foot tall. He had hair all over and was naked. And it was hard to tell the colour at night, but it was dark, just like the smaller one. It wasn't a huge road, but even so, each stride must have been at least 6 foot to cover the distance in one leap like that. The way it moved was startling to me. It was fluid and fast. The one on the hill looked smaller and younger, and the eyes were strange. The smaller one looked back at me with reflecting eyes like a dog. It did not follow the larger man, but backed into the darkness of the trees, and I was off, as it gave me quite a fright. Well, we can understand why, can't we? And to either side of those accounts, we also have the Old Barn Wolfman and the Strathburn Strange Woodland. But I will bring that to you on another night. So thank you very much for joining me. Until then, good night.